Get your money ready for your next priority with AARP's trusted financial tools. Because the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Start planning today at aarp.org/money.
Well, good morning. Welcome to AARP Illinois special virtual event, Inspiring the Next Generation of Powerful Women, featuring Representative Nicole Laha. I'm your host, Teresa Jones, Associate State Director of AARP Illinois, and we are absolutely thrilled and honored to be joined here today by the representative. Before we dive into our discussion, let's learn just a little bit more about our remarkable guest. So, Representative Laha currently serves as the state representative for the Illinois 82nd District. That includes Village of Homer Glen, Downers Grove, Indian Head Park, LaGrange, Orland Park, Palos Park, Woodridge, and several other communities. She is passionate about public service and committed to addressing the needs of her community. Representative resides in Homer Glen with her husband and their 2 children. So, Representative, your story is certainly very interesting. Can you discuss the role your family, friends, and loved ones have had in helping you define your career and your journey?
Oh, yeah. I think, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm extremely excited to be here and have a conversation with you today. I think my family and my friends and my community have everything to do with me being in this role today. You know, I was raised, with community service. I'm the daughter of a Marine. So, that's always been instilled in us growing up. And then, once I got married and had children myself, being involved in our church and giving back to our community is something that also has always been a motivation for me, if you will. And then when we had our daughter, Ashlyn, my daughter, Ashlyn, was born with cerebral palsy. And that really opened up my eyes to a whole different way of life. And that really inspired me to advocate and be involved and look at my community in a very different way. So if it wasn't for my family and my friends and my community, I don't know that I'd have this perspective and this desire to create positive changes where I live.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about your daughter later. So thinking about your careers, what were your major life influences?
I was always really good artistically. I loved drawing, I loved creating. And so that's originally what I went to school for. I wanted to be an art therapist. I always wanted to use that ability of art to be able to teach or inspire or get people to use their own creativity. Which I don't know how somehow led me into healthcare. I went to dental school at UIC Kennedy King to be a hygienist, and that's actually how I met my husband. And I stayed in that career for a really long time. I loved meeting people. I loved helping people become healthy. I loved educating people on oral health and how the whole body is connected through the mouth. And It was just something that I felt like talking to a patient one-on-one had meaning. I always felt like what I did in life, I wanted to make sure it had impact on someone's life. And then I got into public speaking. I was a reporter for a brief time, but then again, I was meeting people from all different walks of life and learning about stories and learning about communities. And so I think the constant theme throughout my careers is that knowledge, wanting to have more knowledge and wanting to experience different types of people and different communities. So I think that is something that was a commonality throughout all my careers.
Yeah, okay. Well, and you notice I did say careers when I asked.
There was no direct path here. This was my paths were winding and weaving, and I kind of, trust that, God has a plan for me, and I kind of just went with it. And I think all of those experiences have led me to be a well-rounded community leader, being part of the art community and healthcare and learning about other people who serve their communities. I think it's really added for this role.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. I can say that. So now I have the burning question. So You hold the title of Mrs. America 2022. So how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those per chance things. I know that Mrs. Illinois was having a pageant, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to be in an arena with women of my age who were married and who like to give back to their community, and also who maybe want to wear a beautiful gown. And it helped me with public speaking. It helped me with developing a platform, and it helped me with confidence, and working towards a fitness goal and getting back to myself after having children. And so that's kind of where it originated. I ended up, winning Mrs. Illinois, and then as a state title holder, you get to go to nationals, and you represent your sport. And I had no idea that it would lead to representing America, from winning the national competition. And it was a dream come true. The whole experience was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, it sounds amazing. I'll tell you. I remember when I had first read your bio and everything, and I saw your picture as well, and I was like, well, all right, I can see that. And it's just very, very cool. I love this. So, what advice would you give to someone in high school or college, or even after college, that would consider being in a pageant?
Well, I think it's not so much focusing on the pageant, but focusing on what you're passionate about. Do you have a passion project? What would you like to? What goal would you like to complete? And for me, it was advocating for the disability community, advocating for accessibility, not just for our disabled individuals, but for our seniors or for people who move differently, and using that platform of pageantry to either speak locally or statewide or nationally. So I think that being involved in the glitz and the glamour of pageantry is absolutely wonderful, and it's the cherry on top. But it's developing a platform and personal growth that I think makes you successful in that arena. So following your why, what gets you out of bed? What's something that really, gets your heartstrings pulling? What do you really feel that you can make a difference in? And I think that's a really good start if you want to get involved in advocating in pageantry.
Yeah, I never knew that. That's really interesting. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, if you will, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but maybe you can go into just a little bit more detail. The path from Mrs. America 2022 to what inspired you to be an Illinois State representative.
First of all, it's an honor. I mean, it's a tremendous honor to represent your country, but now to represent a district. And there's a lot of similarities, believe it or not, but for me, understanding how to make changes where you live or in your state is also realizing that to be a legislator, being in the General Assembly, working with everybody in surrounding areas and towards making positive changes. And so being Mrs. America, you advocate for positivity. Being a legislator, I know for me personally, is also advocating for unity and positivity and positive changes for the people who live in my district. So I guess the biggest difference is when you're Mrs. America, you're sort of advocating for yourself. But now as a representative of 82, I'm advocating for everybody who lives here. And I take that very seriously. And it's a tremendous honor.
So, recognized with an International Humanitarian Award in 2018, you leveraged your platform as Mrs. America to collaborate with the Victoria's Voice Foundation in addressing drug addiction and bridging resource gaps for disabled individuals. Would you mind telling us about that?
Sure, absolutely. So the national platform for the Mrs. America Inc. organization is Victoria's Voice. And basically what we do is we educate and we advocate for awareness when it comes to drugs in communities and young people specifically. Making them aware that there are very dangerous things out there, that it takes one time and it can alter your life or take your life. And so making sure that we're educating first and foremost. And also one of the biggest pushes for Victoria's Voice is making sure that naloxone was available for overdoses, when it comes to specific drug overdoses, is having these resources to help people when something tragic like that happens. Also, ironically, we found out through when I was Mrs. America that one of the biggest populations that are impacted by drug overdoses are the disabled community. And so bridging those gaps and bridging resources where people with disabilities or even special needs or intellectual disabilities are able to get information and get help and make sure their facilities are also accessible. So that was something that was really extremely important to me.
So some people may not know what Victoria's Voice Foundation is. You just give us a quick little.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Absolutely. So Victoria's Voice Foundation is named after Victoria, who tragically lost her life from an opioid addiction. And her parents happen to be directors of the Mrs. Florida pageant. And so they've made it their lifelong mission to take something so tragic and turn it into something positive so it doesn't happen to other families. So that's where they got the Victoria's Voice Foundation.
That's very nice. Yeah, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So your diverse experiences, they've molded you into a strong and influential leader. So as the mother of a child who lives with a disability, it has fueled your commitment to inspiring a more inclusive world. So share with us, please, how in your legislative role, you're able to promote awareness and educational programs for individuals with disabilities.
Absolutely. I think it's an honor to be that unique perspective in the General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
I know how hard it is every single day to have a loved one that has special needs, that has to advocate for medications, doctor's visits, equipment. So living that experience gives me a unique perspective to be that voice and to help bring individuals to the table that can also make some changes. And so hopefully creating some policy changes that are in favor of helping with resources. A passion project of mine is making sure we have accessible and inclusive communities, making sure that that's enforced, making sure ADA rules are being enforced, making sure we have play places for children so all children of all abilities can play next to each other for that social growth. So those are all things that are on my personal agenda, is making sure that we live in accessible, inclusive, and kind communities. And of course, there's many other things I'm passionate about, making sure our communities are safe, making sure our families are able to keep their hard-earned money. These are all things that I have the honor of representing families in our district. And I think they all go hand in hand.
And I think that's wonderful that you're in a position that you can make these sort of things, making an awareness to people that they may not think about. I know my daughter, and we never called it a disability for her, but she had a hearing impairment. And I remember when I used to work for another senator years ago, I talked to her all the time about how difficult it was with insurance, about getting certain things.
Yes.
And so she helped with that. And for you to be in a position that you can help, it's wonderful. And thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that and understanding. I mean, it is really hard. It's hard. You want to take care of your child. You want to do everything you possibly can. And then you're sitting on hold for 4 hours or, whatever, and taking on that advocacy role in this position is something that I take very seriously. And so I really am hopeful to make some changes for our families.
I just have that sneaking suspicion that you're going to be able to do that too. So
I hope so.
To expand even further on our last question. So you're known for your dedication to giving back to the community. Can you discuss, and you kind of told us a little bit about some of your passion projects, but if you don't mind just expanding on maybe one or two of them that you've dedicated your time and their significance to your journey.
Sure. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is getting inclusive shopping carts at grocery stores. When we first had my daughter, Ashlyn, my daughter doesn't really sit up independently. So you can imagine putting her in a shopping cart had lots of challenges.
Yes.
if I'm not laying her in the cart and I need to go to the grocery store, how am I shopping? What am I going to do? So I actually I was Googling one night, which is what I do when I have some things on my heart. When my heart is heavy, I get online and I found this company that has inclusive shopping carts. So you could take your child that may not sit independently grocery shopping with you. And I'm proud to say, I think we have 3 or 4, and Illinois is the first in the Midwest to carry these types of carts. So I would really love to see that more. We have the Caroline's carts, which are great, which are for bigger, older individuals that may have to sit. But this go-to shopping cart really specializes in the toddler, smaller demographic that we're missing when it comes to support for our children. So that was something I put a lot of time and effort in trying to, convince grocery store owners that we need these. And I would bring my daughter and say, here, this is her in a regular shopping cart. And she would undoubtedly fall over and be uncomfortable. And then I would say, here's this cart and here's how it helps her. And they would just, a light bulb would go off. And sometimes seeing is believing, right? And I'm guilty of that myself. I was not aware of all the disparities until we had a child who has opened up our eyes. And once your eyes are opened up to these things, it's really hard to look away. So that's something I'm passionate about, that I would love to see more of, that I put a lot of time and effort into.
Now, you mentioned the Caroline cart. Is that because I don't know that I've seen in particular the cart that you're speaking of?
Right. Yeah, you probably haven't, because
the Caroline
I started in Homer Glen.
Yeah. Okay.
The Caroline's cart is like the ones you see at Target or Walmart. And it's a big scooped out seat, which is wonderful. It has its place. It has its place for older individuals, wanderers. Sometimes our kids like to wander. The concern is support for individuals who don't have trunk support, like my daughter. So my daughter has quadriplegic cerebral palsy. So the trunk support is just not there. This particular cart has trunk support around this way and a harness. And she's also facing me at eye level. So she doesn't sit down lower. She actually can look around to her surroundings. So I'm a huge fan of it because it kind of includes her in the shopping process. And it gives her the trunk and neck support that's necessary to have a comfortable shopping experience.
Right. And yeah, I love that because there's probably a lot of parents that have to keep their children at home because they don't have that. So I don't think I've ever seen it, like you said, in Springfield, but boy, I'd love to see that. So,
I would love to as well. And
so I'm going to look forward to hearing about that.
Sometimes you're searching for that little bit of normalcy and you just want to go grocery shopping, right? You just want to take your child grocery shopping. And I know my daughter loves to go grocery shopping. And it just makes it, it's those little reminders that someone sees you. I see you parents. I know that you want to have an experience like that. And so that's definitely something I would love to work more personally on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to be looking out for that as well. And I'm going to tell people too, because I just think that's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've helped parents in other communities get those types of carts. And sometimes it's as easy as asking. Other times it takes a lot of work. So, just being prepared to have to, I'm a really big believer in showing people why it's necessary, or showing the joy that something like that can bring. And it's actually not that expensive. It's like a $500 cart, for a business to purchase. A couple of mine were donated by charities or organizations that, and it's a really nice thing to give to your community. But sometimes just showing how much joy something like that can bring, and it really just changes people's perspectives.
Oh yeah. And just putting a couple in stores. I mean, it's not like you have to have 50,000 of them, but just a couple.
Yeah, I love when I go to my local Jewel and it's being used. I love it. I'll sit there and wait my turn. Just the joy of knowing that another family is able to use it. It makes it so much worth it.
Well, thank you for that. And I know people are very appreciative of you doing that for them. Now, our state has approximately 1.5 million unpaid caregivers, many of whom are juggling caring for their loved ones, their children, work, and their own health. You're one of those 1.5 million caregivers. Can you discuss how you balance this responsibility with such a demanding schedule?
Yeah, it's hard. It really is. If I had to say the hardest thing about what I do and having the heart to serve and, taking care of my daughter, it would be how tired I am being a caretaker. It's hard. And, to all the caretakers out there that are watching this, I see you and I hear you, and I feel what you do. And I hope to create places where we can find support with each other. I hope to find resources where we can maybe get some more respite, or we could find just that little bit of support that I know that we need to keep each other going. But yes, I would be lying if I said, oh, it's super easy, I just do it. No, it's hard. And some days are harder than others. Yes. And the older my daughter gets, the heavier she gets, the more the reality of the situation sets in. And, it's recalibrating. It's trying to find what works. It's trying to find solutions. It's reaching out to other people to see what's worked for people who's come before me. But it is absolutely a challenge.
Yeah. I was a caregiver for several years, more than several, really, for my husband before he passed, and then my father.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You do what you're up early in the morning. You're leaving work and going home for lunch to make sure someone has their lunch or they're taken care of.
And you also you have a little bit of guilt too, because there are some times where I have to cancel a meeting, or there's sometimes where I have to reschedule. My daughter gets sick pretty often, and there's a guilt that comes along with that, but it's a necessity. And having understanding people surrounding you and having understanding people supporting you makes all the difference, because it can get lonely, as I'm sure you know. Nobody knows what it feels like until you're the one doing it. And so, I'd love to see more support in our state for caretakers.
Right. And AARP is on top of all of that, with working with caregivers. And I hear you loud and clear, though.
Yeah.
So what is the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
The most important lesson I've learned is to trust my instincts. I think sometimes I have a hard time. In the beginning, I would have a hard time doing that, trusting my heart, trusting what I know, right? A mother's instincts are rarely wrong.
Yeah.
And, I've learned to trust that more. And, I'm a believer, so I pray. I pray on things. I make sure that it's the right choice. I make sure that, I want to do the right thing. And, I think that trusting how it makes me feel right away is a very valuable thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. This is something we all handle every day.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of stress, whether it be from work, caregiving, personal life. It's one of those things. How do you handle yours and the pressure within your career? How do you balance it all?
Yeah, there is a lot of stress, right? There is a lot of stress in being a parent. There's a lot of stress in being a homeowner, paying bills, and in our economy, and gosh, being a caretaker. I think our stress is magnified. And then being a legislator, carrying the heaviness of the role and making sure that we make good decisions for the people who live in our district. I think the best thing I do is I've learned, and I know the people who work for me are going to laugh at this because I'm not sure they're going to believe me. I've learned that there needs to come a stop to my working day. I've learned that my family is the most valuable thing I have, and to take those days very seriously. Mental health days. I'm a huge advocate for recognizing when you've had too much, right? When you know that everything is heavy, understanding and being graceful with yourself. Exercising, I try to exercise, and I think having grace for yourself in general. Just knowing that you're human, you can't do it all in one day, and reaching out when you need help. I think those are the things that I have had to take in to alleviate some stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like what you said about reaching out and saying you need help, because I think a lot of times, especially women, we feel like we have to be good at this, we have to be good at that. And we just have to be superwoman, carrying a big old ass across our chest. Yes. And a lot of times we're afraid to ask. And I don't know what that is or why that is, but I'm
guilty of that as well, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I ask for help, is that admitting I can't do this? Is that admitting weakness is that, and no, I actually think a really strong person is that person that raises their hand and say, you know what, I can use some help. I'm a little overwhelmed, or how did you go about this? And I'm learning to become more comfortable in that role when I do need help, is to admit it.
Yeah, that's true. That's the hardest thing right there sometimes. Yeah. But like you said, it's not a sign of weakness. I think it shows greater, when you can, I think it just shows a greatness in ourselves when we can say,
like an awareness.
Yes, I can't do this alone. I need some help here.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you perceive to be the greatest obstacles in your career, if any?
Well, there's never enough hours in the day, right? You know, I want to be the best mom, the best caretaker, the best wife, the best legislator. You know, that's an obstacle, is there's just not enough hours in the day. You know, I am still extremely optimistic, and I've been having really positive experiences so far as obstacles go. I look at obstacles as a challenge, not so much a roadblock. So, I mean, I think, you know, being a mother of a special needs child or a caretaker, you find some solutions to obstacles, you know. You know, right now, I think that there's a lot of self-imposed obstacles.
Yeah.
You know, can I do this? Should I be doing this? You know, how often? You know, there's a lot of those types of things. But, you know, like I said, I see them as growth opportunities.
Well, because I know as a legislator, I know that you're here on Tuesday and you don't leave till Thursday.
Yes.
And then as we get deeper and further into the session year, sometimes you're here on Monday through Friday.
Yes.
And I know that's difficult, not even only for your son, who is not a special needs child, but for you with your daughter, your husband, his career. Does that ever seem to just blow your mind or bother you? It's like, geez, how can I do this?
Yes, it does. Yes, absolutely. Every Monday or Sunday that I'm driving to Springfield, there's that moment of, you know, a little bit of like that mom ache, you know, and then I'm usually pretty good on Tuesday and Wednesday because we're so busy. And then if we're there Thursday and Friday, you wake up with a little bit slower of a gait, a little bit slower of a heartbeat, if you will. And then thank God for FaceTime. That's all. I mean, my kids FaceTime me. They know they can call me at any time. My son text messages now, so that's really nice. I will always answer my kids' phone calls. I will answer. I want them to not resent what I do, but feel like a part of what I do. So I include them in some of my meetings, or I'll send Cristiano like a little picture of an agenda. I want them to be proud. And I also explain what I'm doing. You know, I'm here to help families like ours. I'm here to help people like Ashlyn. I'm here to help people like you, to Cristiano. And I try to bring them down as much as I can as well. And, I have to give a shout out to my mom and my dad and my husband for holding down the fort when I'm not there. I do have to say, when I come home, my house looks like pirates lived there. So, hey, that's okay. Nothing against pirates. I'm just saying it is definitely not a well-kept home, but it's a happy home.
And that's what's important. And if you don't mind, you like you said, you have a son and a daughter. How old are your children?
My son is Cristiano. He's 9 years old, and Ashlyn Grace is 6.
Okay, and those are beautiful names, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank
you. He's 9, so he's kind of understanding about mom being gone, and
he does.
What you do. I'm sure he's proud.
He's very proud. I believe, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure one of his teachers, once I got appointed, that he told my teacher I was appointed to the presidency, which is sweet. I thought that was cute, but clearly not true. He is really interested in politics, which is really fun for me because I mean, he grasps a lot of mature concepts. He's also very empathetic. He has this worldly view at such a young age. And I do think that is one of the benefits of growing up with a sibling that has different needs, is a different understanding. So he's a lot of fun. This age is a great age. And like I said, my phone, whenever it rings, if I'm not in the middle of giving a speech or an interview, I will always answer for him. And I want my kids to know I do this because of them, giving them a safe future, and families like ours. And he's in travel baseball, so it's not uncommon for me to have my game changer on my phone, following his baseball games. So I try to create as much normalcy as possible. That's for sure.
And I love hearing you say, as important as your job is, it's nothing more important than your children and your family.
There's nothing that makes me more proud than being a mom. Being a mother. And it never gets old for me. I love it. I love it so much. So, my babies.
Well, I could just talk to you forever, but we just have a certain amount of time here. So, but I do thank you. I thank you so much for this remarkable conversation, on your career and your life, your ongoing commitment to advocating for families, parental empowerment, and fiscal responsibility. It just reflects your genuine care and dedication for positive change for the 82nd District and beyond. We all thank you for your time. I mean, I know that if they don't know and they watch this, they'll realize just how wonderful you are and how blessed they are to have you representing them.
Oh, so, thank you so much. I feel like I'm the one who's blessed. I really do. It's an honor.
So if there's anything that you want to add before we close out, feel free. This is your time.
I'm just thankful. I'm grateful for this time. I'm grateful for this moment, and I'm going to live it to the fullest. I put everything I have into this role, and I could sleep later. Because right now I'm just really enjoying this journey, and I feel there's purpose in this journey, and I'm excited for this year.
Good. Well, AARP Illinois. Now, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that's striving to improve the lives of all of those 50 plus in the state. Today's conversation is one of those hundreds of events that AARP Illinois hosts, from Chicago to Southern Illinois, as well as advocating for legislation and resources to improve our state's livability. So I would encourage all who are joining us today that they connect with AARP Illinois and they join our efforts to make a difference in the community that you call home. Now, remember, the power to create a positive change, well, it lies within each of us. Once again, I'm Teresa Jones. We thank you for joining AARP Illinois today. We look forward to continuing our mission of supporting seniors, caregivers, and the entire aging community in Illinois. Anyone, if you would like more information on our upcoming virtual events, please visit aarp.org/Illinois. Again, that's aarp.org/Illinois. Thank you again, Representative. This has been just a wonderful experience, and we shall do this again sometime.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
This concludes our event today, and we hope that everyone has enjoyed themselves and come back again.